I come from a world of violence. I saw motherfuckers murdered in front of me on the streets of New York. I had violent shit done to me. I acted violently towards other people. I don't want to be part of that violent world anymore, right? And that's the first thing they teach in yoga is two things. Number one is aham brahmasmi, I'm not the material body. Number two, practice ahimsa, nonviolence. I try to live a peaceful life that doesn't harm other people or living entities.
My guest today is John Joseph, original singer of the Cro-Mags, now Blood Clot New York City. He's a 14-time Ironman completer, motivational speaker, and coach. He's an author. His sixth book, Destroying Monsters, is out now. You can find him on Instagram at John Joseph Discipline. John Joseph, welcome to the American Glutton podcast.
Honored to be here, bro. I follow you on social media. You're amazing, bro.
You're fucking awesome too, man. I follow you and I've known about you since I was a little kid. I was a little punk rock kid and I lived on the West Coast and there was punk rock out there, but then there was the kind of onset of hardcore that came out in New York.
Yeah.
It was a whole different thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of the early punk stuff, the Germs and all that. I had the Germs record in I think it came out in 79. I saw the decline of the Western civilization. I was actually in DC when Henry Rollins and Ian came back from the West Coast and they brought all the slam dancing and stage diving to DC. And I was from New York, but I was stationed down there. And I used to go to all the punk shows, met the Bad Brains in 1980.
Yeah, all the different regional sounds, because it was interesting what was going on the West Coast. Then there was like the DC stuff, and then there was New York. Like there was I remember the SNL, where
I was on that.
Really?
Yeah, dude, I was. So what happened was I had crazy shit happen in the military with me. I fucked up. I was an addict. I caught a big drug case and I took off. And when I left, I stayed with Ian MacKaye and Henry in DC. And then I hitchhiked up to New York. The Undead played at the 930 Club. Bobby Steele was in the original Misfits. So I came back to New York and, was living with the Bad Brains when they recorded that album. But I knew Ian very well. And he came up. So Ian told me the whole story. And the thing was, I knew that it was Belushi that arranged the whole thing with Leaving because they were on a film together or whatever. And he was a big fan of the punk rock shit. And I used to see John Belushi. He knocked me on my ass at a Black Flag show in 1980.
He went to shows? Wow.
Yo, he saw I had this T-shirt that said Black Flag kills ants on contact, meaning Adam and the ants.
Yeah.
And it was the 4 bars. He's like, where the fuck did you get that? And then there was a picture of him wearing that shirt. But it was Halloween. I'm downtown hanging out, 1981. And Ian comes downtown. He's like, yo, fucking, what happened was Ian's in DC and he gets this call and he's like, hey, Ian, this is, what's his name? Lauren Michaels from Saturday Night Live. And Ian told me the whole story. I called him up for his birthday last year. He's like, and Ian was like, yo, stop fucking around. Who is this? And he's like, it's Lauren Michaels and someone wants to talk to you. He fucking hands the phone to John Belushi, and John Belushi goes, Ian, huge fan. I heard you got a great fucking scene going on down there. Here's what I want you to do. Bring as many punks up to New York. I got Fear on Saturday Night Live, Halloween. We need to show the fucking whole world what this punk shit is all about. So Ian comes downtown in New York to find people, right? Because it was only like 20 DC kids. They wanted a big mob of fucking punks.
Yeah.
So Ian comes downtown and finds me. He sees me. He's like, yo, he's like, get everybody, come up to fucking Saturday Night Live. The password is Ian Mackay to get in. So I gather all these motherfuckers together. We go up there. You could see right away at 30 Rock, there was like the normal audience fans and then us.
Right.
They kept us separated. So for the first set, the band always does 2 songs, right? The first set, they locked us up in the green room. We were able to, there was no audience. We were fucking slam dancing, breaking shit apart. Fucking, it was crazy. So then they brought us out, but the host that night was Donald. What the hell was his name? He was in Escape from New York. Donald Pleasant. So he had to warn the audience that be aware of surprise. Look out for surprises.
This is not going to be the normal musical.
We look very threatening, but we're really nice people with the nervous laugh. Ha ha ha. And by the way, watch out for surprises, right? So the fucking shit kicks off. I was like, I'm in the video. I got a black t-shirt and a shaved head, you know, DC style. Dive off the fucking stage. Everybody starts going fucking buck crazy. And some of the DC kids, and I'm going to say this because I was friends with both, started getting a little fucking violent against the New York punks.
Right.
Who were not going to take that shit. So this kid, bad dude, his name was Tony T-Shirt. He made all the T-shirts for the bands in New York. Dude was a black belt. Wheel kicks one of the fucking DC kids in the face, breaks their nose. So then this whole fight breaks out between DC and New York. And I'm like, show me where the cameras are. I don't give a fuck. I just want to keep fucking, you know, moshing and doing whatever. So that's when Ian grabs the mic and he goes, fuck New York. New York sucks, right? And everybody was like, Lee Ving's like, oh, he didn't really mean that. But then he comes out with the song, New York's all right if you like saxophones and all that shit.
Yeah.
And at that point, the fucking NBC security starts trying to fucking stop the band from playing. And Lee Ving just throws him fucking out of the way. So then the real big head cheese comes on and he goes, that's it. This is over. We called the police. Everybody has to leave. It was Halloween, so there was pumpkins all over the fucking studio. My friend Tomas, this punk rocker from Spain, picks up a pumpkin and throws it, hits the dude in the face, knocks him fucking out cold, and then this huge pumpkin fight started. Everybody started picking up pumpkins and fucking throwing them. And we're fucking trying to dance to the music and slipping and sliding all over the fucking pumpkin seeds. And then the fucking fucking riot squad comes in with the batons and the shield and chases all of us down the halls of Rockefeller Center out into Fifth Avenue. We fucking hug it out. We're like, holy fucking shit. But shit got destroyed. Cameras
I mean, it was described as a riot.
It was, the fight happened, but at that point, it just got buck wild and everybody started breaking shit. It was $500,000 worth of damage done. And the headlines of the Post the next day was that punk rockers do $500,000 worth of damage on the set, right? Now I was like, yo, did you see the whole shit? And I went to the Bad Brain studio and their producer, who was in the original Blood Clot, JW, goes, nah, man, as soon as Ian said that, they cut it off the air and they put an Eddie Murphy vampire skit on. I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, we didn't get to see any of that. But it is history.
You can find, I don't think they go through all of it, but they kept recording, obviously, and you can find it on YouTube.
Well, Lauren Michaels said it's the one in the Saturday Night Live book. He said it's one of the episodes we'll never air again. And the thing is like Rolling Stone voted it last year the most rock and roll moment ever on SNL.
Yeah.
And there got to be about 500 people that say they were there, whatever the fuck. But, you know, I happened to be there. It was, I happened to be I was at the Clash shit too when the riot broke out in Times Square, when the fire department came and shut the fucking show down. And then I went to like 16 of their shows at Bonds. I mean, I used to go to punk clubs in 77 at Max's Kansas City and CB's when I was 15, living on the streets. Like, I dated a punk rock girl who sadly died of a heroin overdose. But, punk was always my shit, dude. And then,
Yeah.
I go down, I got locked up, all that shit, went into the Navy and, got to see that there was a punk club called the Taj Mahal in Norfolk. So I started going to those shows, and that's when I actually met Ian first, because the Teen Idols and the Untouchables played. So the whole DC crew came down, and I was still pogoing like we used to do in New York, jumping around and whatever the fuck. These kids came out, they were like, to see Henry Rollins, like, creepy crawling around the dance floor like this tribal fucking dance, and like stage diving, and like it looked violent, but it was actually fucking art. It was like they moved like it was unbelievable, and they just captured me. A week later, I had fucking steel cap engineer boots with barbed wire and fucking and bandanas tied around my boots. I shaved my had spiked fucking hair, shaved my fucking head. I had a chain belt that, a bike chain that I fucking, we were fighting all the time, because back then, like I said in my book, Evolution of a Cro-Magnon, I'm like, hey, punk rock is sewn into the fabric of America now, but everybody has a mohawk, even rednecks. But back in the day, if you look like we did, you literally had motherfuckers try to attack you. And
well, yeah, the evolution of all this stuff is wild. I remember even 15 years ago being at like an Urban Outfitters with my young daughters and seeing a dude with a neck tattoo. And I was like, from my time, neck tattoos, you were in prison or the head of a gang. Like,
exactly.
And now, dudes, you just see dudes with face tattoos walking down. Like, it's all meaningless now.
I see dudes with spider webs on their elbows, and that meant that you did time for murdering somebody. And even the teardrop, it's, I got to give props to Jonathan Shaw. Scab Bender just came out. He's one of the old school artists. Like, Johnny Depp fucking helped put the movie out. He lives at Johnny Depp's house in fucking Hollywood. And he talks about the fucking culture of the whole tattooing and how, I got that tattoo in 1980. That was my first one. I escaped from boot camp and went into Chicago and got fucking inked up. And like the whole culture of tattooing, and just like, it's all been co-opted, it's just like, it doesn't mean shit anymore. Like people like, do you regret having the tattoos now that like all these fucking dingleberries have tattoos? I said, no, man, my tattoos mean something. Every tattoo has a meaning to it. It's philosophical. It's about my journey in this life with everything I fucking been through. And, I really don't give a fuck what other people do. I'm me. Yeah. I love punk rock still to this day. And, probably, my whole back is fucking covered. Chris Garber did like 43 hours on my back. I got, just whatever. But, it's just part of the, when shit got real popular, we were out there touring and sleep in plumbing vans and fuck, like I got this punk rock comedy. It's all about this band that goes on tour, and it's just based on all the Cro-Mag shit, the crazy shit that we went through as a band, and sleeping on people's floors. And even when I toured with the Bad Brains in 81, their Southern tour, and nobody knew that they were black. The original drummer was Dave. Oh my God,
Hahn. Really?
Dude, the original drummer was Dave Hahn, right, from the Mad, and he was the original drummer for the Cro-Mags. The Cro-Mags started in 81. We rehearsed for months, and then we broke up in August of 81. So it was Dave Hahn, Dave Stein, Harley, and me, right? And Dave Hahn was the Bad Brains manager. he sent out all the tour promotional flyers and didn't put a picture of the fucking band. And everything was cool till we got below DC. And then the shit started. First club, Big Bad Wolf in Raleigh, North Carolina. We walk into the fucking club to load in, and there's bikers there with like KKK shit on the wall. And they're like, what the fuck do y'all want? And we're like, yo, what the fuck is up?
We're the entertainment.
Well, I said, we're the band. He goes, man, y'all ain't the fucking band, man. The bad brains of the band tonight. And Doc, the guitar player, Dr. No, holds up his guitar case. It's got a Bad Brain stick. He goes, yo. And the guy, I swear, the guy goes, Jethro, the band is N-words. I was ready to fucking, and then HR says, easy Rasta. Like he pulled me back because I was the security fucking like they seen me fight this Puerto Rican gang called the Hitman with a chain. They tried to stab me. I did get stabbed, but the Beastie Boys were there at 171 Studio. I was the only motherfucker that fought these guys. And I wasn't scared. I did time. I was in Spofford. I went upstate. I grew up on the streets. I'm like, yo, you're trying to stab me and you think that I'm going to fucking let you get away with it? So they squashed the beef they put a KOS on me, but the Bad Brain squashed the beef. Then they were like, we got to take this motherfucker out on the road with us because I was like, yo, I'll kill for you. I will fucking put my life on the line to protect this band just from their message of spirituality and unity. They saved my life. They got me off fucking drugs initially, switched my diet, plant-based, the whole shit. HR put the first mic in my hand. He was like, yo, I was trying to be a drummer. I sucked. I think it was like him saying I think you'd be a better singer. And besides, we don't want to hear you fucking, like Bam Bam beating on the fucking drums in the studio. So anyway, HR pulls me back and he goes, nah. He goes, we're going to wait. So he comes on stage and the first thing HR says, fuck, fire, burn this racist club, tear it up. All the fucking punks just start fucking smashing the club, stage diving. The bouncers and the bouncers were assholes. They were like pouring beers on kids' mohawks, like fucking with all these little kids the whole fucking time. And I'm like, yo, you know what you got to do to a bully, And so then the bouncers got mashed up. So the gig ends, and we're like, I was the drum tech for Earl, the drummer. So I'm like, breaking up the cymbal stands. I'm like, yo, we got to get the fuck out of here. We know we're not getting paid. That's 100%. The doors open and the fucking owner comes in, this big fucking dude with like two bikers on each side of him with baseball bats. And he goes, where's that N-word lead singer that trashed my club? And I go, all the punk rock kids are with me. I go, all right. Here's your fucking chance to get back at these motherfuckers. I start telling them, pick something up, pick up a piece of drum hardware. I walk out there with a fucking cymbal stand, and I'm like, come on, motherfuckers. They thought we were going to back down. I'm like, come on, big boy. One of you motherfuckers. And then they just stopped in their tracks. And they were like, we're going to call the police. So the police came, escorted us to the highway, and said, get on the highway, never come back. But it was shit like that.
Okay, but is this is part that's most fascinating to me. Is that when you go into sobriety, into health? Because now, like, I follow you on social media too, and I'm always inspired by the shit you're doing. You're doing triathlons, you're on bikes, you're doing runs. Listen,
Jim, well, it's Iron
Jim,
Man.
I grew up as a punk rock kid, and none of that was part of the messaging I received.
The first time, so I was with my late Uncle Rocco, and I saw Iron Man Kona in like 82 or 83. And I fucking was crying. I was like, I'm going to fucking do that race one day. Like the stories of these people that challenged themselves. And then I saw this punk rocker with a fucking mohawk. They featured him on a fucking, like they always do the stories. At first it was on ABC, Wide World of Sports. And I'm like, look at this motherfucker. He's all tatted up in a punk rocker doing Iron Man. So it always stayed in the back of my head. And uh, the sobriety started. I was even a monk in '82. I joined the end of '82. I joined the Krishna temple, which is another crazy fucking aspect of what I went through, because I started finding out some really crazy shit that they were doing in there against, doing shit to children. They poisoned Prabhupada to get him out of the way. They stole billions of dollars. They used violence. They murdered a devotee who spoke out against them.
Which is
So
all
just
antithetical
just
to their
everything you
teachings.
see
Yeah.
about a cult times fucking 10. So I
Right.
was like, I'm done with this. And it really helped me, because at that point in my life, I was so fucked up. I was like, that's why I call the book, Destroying Monsters, because that monster was always there since I was a kid. I started popping pills at fucking 12 and 13 and drinking till I blacked out, and just all the shit that was done to us in the foster home. 85% of all addicts report that they were abused as a child. So the numbers, that's by the NIH, the statistics don't lie. I knew, and I also knew I had a very, and I don't say this to brag, but because of, if you kick a dog constantly, that dog's going to turn out to be a violent motherfucker. And that's what I was. I was never a bully, but if anybody ever did anything to me or my friends, I responded extremely violently toward that, and that's the way you had to be growing up the way I did. When I went to Spofford in '78, I was the only white dude in the whole facility. I had a target on me from the day I walked in. The cops that brought me there from Central Booking said, "Hey, the last white kid that we brought here got murdered. You better watch your P's and Q's." And I was like, I ain't no racist. And they laughed and they go, huh, you're about to find out what's going to happen in there. And they drove me through the fucking gates. And the minute I went to Indoc, I had somebody fuck with me and had to put a chair over that dude's head and knock his friend out the same fucking day. First day I was on the unit beat. I was in B3 in Spofford, which was the intermediates. But I had, I had a lot of issues. I came out of lockup and I went into the Navy, but I had all of these addiction issues. I was drinking, I was taking drugs. I didn't stop doing it even though I put the uniform on. And then people were like, "Yo, there's a way," because I was getting paid $199 every 2 weeks in the Navy. And they were like, "Yo, here's a way for you to make all this money and get all the drugs and fucking everything that you want." And I started selling drugs in the military. And but I was also an addict. So I had a lot of issues. I never even told anybody what happened to me as a kid until I wrote The Evolution of a Cro-Magnon. And then that was like my therapy. But the bad brains turned me onto the health shit and the consciousness and the spirituality. J.W. Rest in peace, man. He was their engineer. He produced that first record, Raw cassette. I was there for the whole recording of that. I saw what that man did for Bad Brains, and what he did for me personally. He got me a job at the health food store. He gave me all these books on philosophy, Ram Dass, Gurdjieff, Krishnamurti, Bhagavad Gita. He was like this transcendental librarian. Here, when you finish that book, give it back. I got the next one for you. So my consciousness started to change. I went to see Sri Chinmoy speak, like all this shit. I just became like this sponge for spiritual knowledge to help me out of the shit that I was going through. I got a job at the health food store that was connected to Integral Yoga Institute in New York, Swami Satchidananda. I started going over there and working in the kitchen, learning how to cook food and service. I met Victorious Kovinskis and the people from Hippocrates Health Center and Wigmore. So it was just this journey for me. But what I say in this book, Destroying Monsters, is that if you don't, like, if you break a bone and you don't set that bone properly, or you have a wound that hasn't healed properly, it just takes the littlest thing to tear that open. And for me, it was always betrayal. I felt betrayed by my mom, because she even admitted I chose bad boyfriends over my own kids, and she has guilt personified from that. But then again, she was going through hell with my father, who tried to murder her. So it's like, and she was put on medication. They gave her speed and barbiturates at the same time. and she was a wreck. She was in no position to take care of kids, and the state took us away. And in an ironic twist, they did it to keep us safe, and they put us in a foster home of horrors, where every imaginable thing you could fucking do to a kid happened to us. And I had all of those issues just brewing beneath the surface. Like, even when I got locked up, they had me seeing a shrink. They had me seeing a shrink in the military, in the Navy. They were like, they said in my thing that that's why I got the time bomb. They said I'm a time bomb waiting to go off. And it's not like something I sit around bragging about, but it's something that I've had to deal with my whole life. And even now that I'm in recovery for 23 years, I know all it takes is for me to slip up. It's said that you're walking the razor's edge. And that's why, I'm constantly doing my meditation and my training. And that's where the Ironman stuff, my first triathlon ever was the Ironman. And I did a Cro-Mag show the night before to 3,000 people. I'm staying at my brother's in the Bronx now. He drove me down to Philly. I did the show. I got back in the fucking car, drove to New York, took a shower, and went to the start line.
Jesus.
With no sleep and a broken bone in my foot. And I did that fucking Ironman in 13 hours. And it was 96-degree August humidity in New York City. And I was not going to be denied. I was like, and my coach at the time, Orion Mims, all the little fucking jocks in the bike store, who I can't stand them. Like, they put people down. I'm like, yo, look at your journey. And I posted about you, and people are making comments. I said, motherfuckers, you guys, you're fucking crumb bums. That's what you are. Instead of encouraging somebody, right? And they were doing that to me too. Oh yeah, maybe, I don't think you're ready for, what my coach said? The shit this motherfucker been through, or Ironman is a walk in the park. You guys should all shut the fuck up. And he's this 6'4" black dude who's a boxer. And the whole triathlon community used to be these white dudes with their fucking noses in the air. And he fucking shut them all down.
Yeah. In a world besieged by unhealthy choices, where fast and ultra-processed foods are omnipresent and dominate society, you can fight back. Introducing the Prep Deck, a radical new tool that turns temptation into healthy choices. This is not a diet, and we realize that this commercial has told you nothing at all about the product itself. Please follow the link below for more information.
Just like this dude.
There is a weird thing where, like, if sometimes I'll post about something I'm proud of or feeling proud of in the moment, because for me, pride is very fleeting. It's very tenuous. Yeah. It comes and it's ethereal and then it's gone. But in that moment, I feel okay about it. I want to share some success. And there is a lot of negativity that gets sent back over social media, where it's like, okay, you did that. You're an actor. You got chefs and trainers. And it's like, well, I don't have a chef. I don't have a trainer. I'm in the gym 6 days a week by myself. I cook my meals. Like, I don't know what to tell you. By the way, there was a time in my life where I had trainers and nutritionists. I always gained the weight back, even while I was seeing them. Like, that didn't work for me. So
it's mindset. That's everything. But see, that's my whole thing too. I wrote the book, The PMA Effect, which is all about, I learned that from Bad Brains HR, from Napoleon Hill, right? He was the first person to talk about PMA, positive mental attitude. Bad Brains wrote it in a song. Don't care what they may say, we got that attitude. Don't care what people might do, we got that attitude. Yeah, we got that PMA. So I was like, that's where I'm coming from. And I see no matter what, like even my last Ironmans, I DNF'd, did not finish, right? And that's because I was racing with a fucking hernia. And people like, I completed another Ironman holding the motherfucker in. I ran by my coach. I'm like, yo, feel that. And he was like, what the fuck? So, but then they're all on internet. Oh yeah, DNF. I'm like, you couldn't even finish the fucking swim, dude. You would drown. But I'm like, listen, I follow the Four Agreements, right? And that's by Don Miguel Ruiz, which is a brilliant book. If anybody hasn't read it, I suggest. And one of them is to not take things personally. And what they're doing when they say that type of shit, they're revealing their mindset. They're revealing the ugliness that's within them, and they're projecting it on you. It only becomes truth if you accept it.
Right. It's their own limiting belief. That's
What
as
it
far
is.
as they'll get, because that's where their belief goes.
Yeah, and you know what? I just always respond. I mean, I haven't been the best at it at times. I'm like, because you could take a motherfucker out the streets, but you ain't taking the streets out of a motherfucker. And I'm
Right.
like, I'll tell you what, homie, all you motherfuckers that talk shit or whatever, I'm gonna be here. Why don't you show up and have a conversation instead of like talking shit on the internet, which, Mike Tyson made a great comment about that, which I love, which, people have become comfortable saying shit that would get them punched in the face on the street. See, for me, everything that I come from was up close and personal. We didn't have this, right? So when I wanted to say something to you, I'm going to roll up and I'm going to be right here and I'm going to fucking tell you to your fucking face. It's none of this, writing shit from fake accounts and all this bullshit. This is cowardice bullshit. And the biggest cowards are the ones who put people down who are trying to improve themselves in their life. And what you've done is incredible. And I love that it's like you always talk about cycling and, that you're on the bike constantly and all of this. And I'm like, that's what it's all about. Like, yo, inspire people, dude. Inspire people. Why do you come on here throwing fucking dirt? It's like, what's that? The Man in the Arena, that famous
Yeah.
speech.
Yeah. Teddy Roosevelt was a
Don't listen to the
badass.
people on looking, laughing at those who fall, because we're all gonna fall. That's the nature of the business. But the real badass motherfuckers are the ones who get back up after taking shots. That's
Yeah.
just like I think it was Joe Frazier said that the real test of a champion is what they come back and do after a loss. So, to me, I'm like, I try not to pay it any mind, but I tell so many people that are having weight issues, I'm like, yo, follow this dude right here. Look at this dude right here, what he's been able to, and I post them to your page. I send people to your page. I'm like, there's no excuses if you want to fucking lose the weight. And then there's another guy, Tim Kaufman. He goes by Fat Man Rants on fucking Instagram. That dude fucking lost 100, like, I don't know, a couple 100 pounds. He was on the level of you.
Yeah.
And he competes in Ironman now. And the first time I did Ironman, there was a dude that lost, I think he lost like 300 pounds and he finished Kona.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
like,
insane.
you have to inspire people. The society is becoming so ugly with like putting people down and kicking people, when they're down and not trying to help people out. And it's the same thing. That's why I answer any message of addicts. I mean, I had to sit there and watch my younger brother slowly kill himself. And sadly, he lost his life at the end of October 2022. But and he did it in the middle of me writing this book. He passed away. And I'm like, I was like destroyed. But I knew
Yeah.
the only thing I could do is keep writing. That's what I have to do. And that's why I got the book done. And I put it out there as a way to anybody going through shit, man, there's a way out of it, and I try
Well,
to
let me
encourage.
ask you this, John. When I was a kid, and I think punk rock wasn't super mainstream when I was a kid. It certainly wasn't when you were coming. It was very, very small community back then. But I remember, and I had a drug problem even after this, but Ian MacKaye and Minor Threat's song Straight Edge glorified being sober. And there was a whole like group within the group of sober people who were celebrating sobriety. And then there were different niches. There were the militant straight edges who wanted to fight, and then there were the pacifist straight edges. And um I'm out of it. I'm a grandfather. Like I don't know what the fuck is going on with the kids today, but I certainly don't see any figures, even if they're small, that are singing about spirituality or being sober or abstinence or health or any of
Nope,
those things.
nope.
It doesn't really
Doesn't
exist.
it doesn't really I guess it's not, fashionable. I never gave a fuck about fashion. I always said that too. So when we were on Donahue, and all he kept talking about was, oh, the fashion and how you look and what hairdos you have, and I raised my hand and he came over and I go, dude, you keep talking about fashion, you keep talking about haircuts. This has nothing to do with it. I said, this is a mindset. This is a movement of like of thought and spirituality, and he right away he took the mic. He didn't want to hear that
Right.
because I mean I was friends with Ian back in the day, and the thing about it was everybody, and I hung out with two maniacs named Billy and fucking I'm blanking on the other dude's name, but we used drugs. But Crazy Jay and Billy, and we used drugs. But none of the other dudes in the scene judged us for that. They hung out with us. And then when I got clean, and then went plant based, I saw Ian, and I was like, dude, like you're drinking fucking cokes and all this shit with all this fucking shit in it. I was like, dude, if you really want to be straight edge, you need to be fucking plant based, right? So then Fugazi played at the Palladium, and I went over there to say what's up to him. And this was in the 90s. And he goes to me, yo, man, I finally got off all the fucking, I'm vegan or whatever the fuck. I don't use that word, but he said it. And I was like, right on. And I fucking like, oh no, it was, I got Dave, not Captain Sensible from the Damned. I got him lunch at Angelica's when they played. But like, yeah, Ian is, I have a ton of respect for him. Henry Rollins just does whatever. I don't think he gets high though, but Ian's still doing his thing. I look at it this way: any positivity that you could take out of punk rock, whether it's for us, the Cro-Mags, I went through all this shit. I'm the one who named the album Age of Quarrel. I was the original singer, and then they got this dude Eric was in the band while I was in the temple, and Harley would be like, you gotta come out and fucking fuck this Krishna stuff, dude. Just fucking would put the band back together. I said, yo, this is my life now, whatever. But like, so when I came back after being a monk for like just under 2 years, I injected all that philosophy of Prabhupada into the Cro-Mags. That's where we got Seekers of the Truth and We Gotta Know. And I even named the album Age of Quarrel. That comes from the Vedas of India. And in Sanskrit, it's the Kali Yuga. That's the age that we're in. So, and that whole thing, and I'll even say it, I was a hypocrite in a lot of ways because of my drug issues, which reared themselves in 88. I had a fucking freebase crack pill booze addiction for 2 years. If you read in the book, my friend read that shit. He's like, how the fuck are you still alive, dude? I had like 3 drug gangs in New York put KOSs on me. I fucking almost got shot by a Colombian that we tried to rob. I threw him out of the car at like 50 miles an hour. Fucking dude, I was fucking insane. Me and my girlfriend at the time robbed the fucking Red Hot Chili Peppers merch person. I had all the punk rockers in fucking LA wanting to fucking kill me. All the surf, like badass surf gang motherfuckers. I was an asshole fuck up. But you know what? I lost everything. And if you read the story about how that happened on the West Coast with my girlfriend at the time, it's insane that how the whole shit went down. And then the plane and the fucking feds fucking stormed the terminal, and I got away. They said that I kidnapped her. Her parents were like big time Hollywood people. And I ended up in a crack house with all this fucking cocaine because we sold her car. It was like 2 ounces. And these dudes hit me with a fucking 2x4 baseball bat, whatever, split my fucking skull open, took all my shit, almost killed me. And I was lower than rock bottom. I was sitting in Tompkins Square Park in the pouring rain, nothing. I burned every bridge, every friend. Fuck, saying I hit rock bottom. I was below the fucking rocks, and I had to climb out of that shit. And I did it through spirituality. I prayed right there to God. I believe in God. I have, my faith, whatever it is, whatever anybody's faith is, people put down people that believe in God. I say, hey, man, if it makes you a better fucking human being, man, God bless you. Go for whatever it is. Whatever path makes you a better person, to me, that's the path that you should honor that and just be the best version of yourself on that path. And I went to the temple in Brooklyn and I said, if you don't let me stay here, I'm going to be fucking dead. And they let me stay there. They said, you got to get a job. It was crazy. I got a job like on Wall Street. My friend was like, you got to wear a fucking suit. I didn't even have a suit, dude. I borrowed a wedding tuxedo with the tails and the ruffle shirt and the whole shit. I had size 13 shoes I borrowed from somebody. I had to put newspaper because I'm like a size 10. The shits didn't even fit me. I walk in the next day. These motherfuckers are all on Wall Street with Armani suits, $3,000. They just start cracking the fuck up. This dude starts humming the fucking "Here Come the Moon," like the wedding song, like, yo, like just crazy shit. But it was the fitness and the spirituality and the meditation that started me healing myself, and the good diet. So I couldn't do that job. I went back to my friend Chris Flash, who owned Flash Messengers, and I said, hey, man, I need a fucking job. So he hired me. I was riding all day. Then I was racing in the park at night, right? Doing the crit race at night. It's 4 laps, 10K each lap. And I was playing ball. I studied martial arts. I started going to El Bohio. Ron Van Cleef, the Black Dragon, had a school there. I started going there. People beating the shit out of me because I was the only white dude in the school. It was all black and Spanish, so they were teeing off on me. And I was like, beat my motherfucking ass. I'm going to come. And I kept coming back the next fucking day. I was like, I'm here again. I'm here again. I'm here again. And then they finally were like, yo, dude, like they gave me the fucking respect. And it was always the fitness, the diet, the mindset, the meditation stuff that helped me get out of where I'm at now. And even after the 90s shit, I started dabbling again. And that's why I say it's a razor's edge, man. I started going to the clubs, ecstasy, mushrooms, fucking doing all this stupid shit, weed shakes, and fucking, I'm like, and then like the coke would come out, and I was like, all right, this is not going to go to a good place. So my brother, it was right before 9/11, and I said, that's it, man. I used to deliver weed to Dave Chappelle, Harrison Ford, all the models. I had a weed service. I originally worked for the Pope of Pot, who had the 1-800-WANT-POT number. That guy's a fucking lunatic. He got busted, and luckily I wasn't there because the dispatcher was a Cro-Mag fan, and he was like, yo, we're getting weird calls. Don't go to work. And they got busted that day. And so then I started my own service, and it was all, the who's who of New York, the actors, the model agencies. I had them all calling me. But my friend's teacher from India, who's like this Vedic astrologer, and he's been right on so much stuff, he goes, my friend AJ, who was in Leeway, Cro-Mags, and Both Worlds, said, hey, man, I asked my guru, should I do music with you? And he said, yeah, you can do music with him when he gets out of prison, because that's where he's going, because he's involved in drugs. He knew nothing about what I was doing, but he did my chart, my Vedic astrology chart. And he goes, this guy's involved in some bad shit. And then right after that, do this freak shit, I got popped. And I was fucking... They were tailing me. My phone got tapped. They thought I was selling hard drugs, but it was only weed, because there was services that did heroin, cocaine, pills, a felony type shit. So then I just said, you know what? I'm out. And then all the shit that went down the day before 9/11, I was sober, thankfully, when the day before like a couple of days before 9/11, I get this call from my friend Josh's mother, and Amy Morrison. She's a filmmaker. And she's like, the mother was like, you got to come get your brother. He's in my attic in Staten Island, and he's going to be fucking dead. And I went out there and did an intervention on him September 10th, 2001. And the next day I was supposed to fly him to the rehab down in St. Thomas, and then the planes hit the towers and everything else. So he detoxed in my house for fucking like 3 weeks, and we had to relive all the shit that we had been through as kids and everything. And I just vented on my mother. I went off on her, and then she was like crying, stop saying, I was saying really hurtful things because I blamed her. And then she said, I never planned to have, you don't know the real story with your father. I never planned to have you or your younger brother, Frank. I only was going to have Eugene. Your father broke in and raped me, and that's how you guys were conceived. I was 20 years old with 3 children. No, he was breaking into the house, robbing me, beating me up, taking any money I had to feed you guys. I was on medication. I was an unfit mother, and I started seeing her side of the whole thing. And we've been together very tight ever since. And even with my brother's death 2 years ago, it was really crazy because the VA did an operation on him and gave him the untreatable Mercer, and it was killing him. It was eating away his bones. They just put him on all these painkillers, so they had to do a open heart surgery on him. So they had to detox him because he was taking all this medication, and they put him in the Finger Lakes, upstate New York, to detox. So the nurse comes in, and it's a veteran facility. And the nurse picks up his chart and goes, "Oh, Frank McGowan, are you any relation to John McGowan?" And he's like, "Yeah, John Joseph McGowan. That's my brother from the Cro-Mags, like, blah, 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 blah." She goes, "No, John Emil McGowan." And Frank's like, "That's my father." And she goes, "John Emma McGowan is your father?" And my brother's like, "Yeah, why are you bringing this up?" She goes, "I'll be right back." She comes back 5 minutes later. She's like, "What's your maiden's name? Who were your brothers?" Everything checked out. And Frank's like, "What the fuck is going on?" And she goes, "Your father is dying in the room next to you."
Wow.
And he wants to, like, you can't even make this shit up. If you tried to put it in a movie, the suspension of disbelief would not be attainable. Like, and he wanted to send a priest in to beg for his forgiveness. And my brother, being the mess that he was in, he goes, "Tell him to go to fucking hell. He's not getting any forgiveness from me." And when my father passed away and Frank was leaving after the surgery and all that, they gave him a bag of my father's last possessions, and it was a half a pack of Camel non-filters, filthy sneakers, filthy clothes. He was basically a homeless bum on the street. And I said to Frank, I said, that was the universe or God or whatever showing you where your life is going to be, because you walked away from your 3 kids. You were a violent fucking drunk. You're doing the same exact shit. And after that, his wife died of an overdose in his arms. I had to go do another intervention. He was sobbing. I fucking took him to the VA on 23rd Street, and he left the next day. He went back to the same apartment and just medicated himself to death. And he died October 21st, 2022.
Oh, I'm so sorry, man.
Yeah, man, it was and what's really weird is that I'm sitting there with my friend. Um, he's this dude from New York. I know, and he's like, "Yo, I'm passing through. Um, I'm going to see my girlfriend who lives by you, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, stop by." So I'm sitting in the backyard, and he's in recovery too. Scam. His name is Scam Dust. He's a fucking riot. He's like fuck crazy motherfucker. Like one time he told us, "Yeah, come. I got a van. I'm gonna drive the Cro-Mags around." We go down there and he drives us around on tour in his fucking bread truck. Like fucking, I love the guy. He's fucking crazy, but he goes, "Hey man, what's going on with your brother?" And I go, "Yeah, it's not good, dude." He's like, he had a fucking stroke, very bad. Like he can't even talk anymore, and it's not good. And I'm sitting there, and in between us, my phone is sitting on the table, and the phone rings, and it's my brother who's in the other room. And I had a premonition. I go, this is not going to be good. And my brother Eugene goes, did you hear the news? I was like, Frank's dead, right? And he goes, yeah. And I fucking knew it. And I was like, my friend Scan was like, I gotta go. I fucking processed it. I broke down for whatever the fuck. And then I got right on the computer like 2 hours later, and I wrote the second chapter, which is in honor of his entire life and our story and how I felt I let him down by my addiction because he always looked up to me as the strong one. And then when I was smoking crack with him and doing all this crazy shit, it was like I kind of felt like I let him down in that regard, and I should have been stronger. And he never stopped the partying. Like his wife died, just everything. It just, he dealt with what was done to us as children. Uh, and he could never process it. Like, and so he dealt with it by addiction, which took his life. So
Yeah.
that's why I tell people, man, if you're going through shit, you got to talk it out. I don't care how you process it. If you keep that shit in, it's a monster and it will fucking destroy you. And and that comes from the old days. Because in New York, I started slinging heroin at 14 years old. I was a drug mule on the streets of New York City because when I ran away from the final home, St. John's Home for Boys, that's how I made my bones on the street. I was like I was a heroin mule. I was fucking selling drugs everywhere. And it's just like, you have to just, and we called it the monster. Like when somebody had a habit, fucking like the junkies I live with were like, yo, I got a bundle a day monster. That was how we referred to a habit. And that's what I tell people, habits can be good or bad, right? It's like, and I coach people in discipline, and I go, yo, discipline creates habits, habits create routines, and the routines become who we are. Just like I gotta get into the fucking gym, I gotta get on my bike, I gotta do whatever the fuck I gotta do. And for me, it's the same thing. You know, I always got told by the senior monks, right? If you relax, you get the axe. And that always stuck with me. I even said it in the book because the first half of this is like a memoir, kind of written memoir about my and my family's issues with drugs. But the second half of the book is this is how myself and other people are able to maintain long-term recovery and stay clean and sober. I got Steve-O and all kinds of people in there who were like, yo, this is what I do. Ken Rideout, who's a fucking world champion fucking runner right now, boxer. He does the podcast with Teddy Atlas. He's a fucking stud. Frank Grillo, the actor, he's a good friend of mine. He's sober now. And it's just I just feel like you're turning even in the Vedic teachings of India, they refer to the third eye. And in the minute you take any kind of drugs or alcohol and stuff like that, it closes your third eye because you're putting yourself on the mental platform, and the spiritual platform is above the mental platform, right? So the minute you take an intoxicant, you're brought down to the material consciousness. You're acting on the mental platform. So you have to go above that. So that's why, to me, running or riding my bike or fucking swimming in the ocean or doing meditation, that's a spiritual process for me.
I think of it as very spiritual too. And for me, drugs, alcohol, food, all of it was in service of eliminating discomfort right now, And
Yeah.
so and that could be anything. I'm sad, or I'm emotionally unwell, or even just like, I'm just not comfortable in my own skin a lot of the time. And those
It's a
things,
cheap fix. And you know what?
the problem is you kick far worse discomfort down the road
Right.
versus if I take that discomfort now and I just experience it, or I even ramp it up. If I go exercise, which is never comfortable, you're always doing, that's the point for me, make myself uncomfortable. Then I get comfort afterwards as a reward rather than an extreme version of discomfort as a reward.
Yeah. Like I follow David Goggins. He's a big inspiration for me. And that's what he says. You have to become comfortable doing uncomfortable things.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of mentors that I have, but, one of the things that they say is that, you could travel at the speed of mind to try to get away from your problems, but they're going to be right there waiting for you. Like I thought it's that whole escapism belief, right? Like so basically I had robbed these Colombians. I had all these drug gangs after me. I made the call to LA. I was like, I got to get the fuck out of here. I go out to LA. She pulls up in a fucking Mercedes Benz. Like her parents live next to fucking the posts in Santa Monica on Pacific Coast Highway. I roll up and there's a fucking Playboy model shoot going on in the fucking. It was like every fantasy I had, like about Hollywood, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be an actor, and for now I'm gonna take this roofing job, and I tried to, and I think I lasted probably 5 days, and then we went to this party, and the coke came out. I was like, yeah, just fucking one line. Within a week, I was fucking freebasing, and by the end of that whole trip, we started out in fucking parties with the chili pepper people and fucking all this crazy shit in mansions and everywhere. And by the end of that whole fucking thing, I was in a crack motel in Compton and fucking ready to sell her body to fucking get me fucking drugs. So that's how fucking far you can fall. And it just goes to show when I finally did kick that shit, I did it in the belly of the beast. I was walking around in the Alphabet City and walking right by the dudes that were like, yo, I got you. You need credit, man. I got you. Your money's good. I had to walk by motherfuckers smoking in the fucking street and smelling it every time I did. The fucking when you smell that shit or some drugs, you get that rush, and you just if you're not strong, and I would just go run on the fucking 6th Street track or fucking pick up a basketball, get on my bike, whatever the fuck it took for me to not give in to that impulse, because that's the nature of the mind. I got real into the explaining addiction through the yoga process, which the nature of the mind is thinking, feeling, willing, right? So if we think about using drugs, then we feel like we want to do it, then we will to do it, and the next thing we know, we're fucking using drugs somewhere. So when that initial seed is planted, you got to uproot that shit, and you do that by higher knowledge, by a higher principle, which to me is the spirituality. And it could either be chanting, meditating. I'm going out Monday and feeding the homeless while I'm here. I do that all the time. I raise money I've done benefits to feed the homeless. Any position that I got in this material world, I tried to always use it to better people, because that's what people did for me. And when I said to HR, the singer from the Bad Brains, how can I ever pay you back? He goes, Rasta, man, them cannot pay me back, man. You must pay it forward. That's the way you pay me back. You pay it forward. And that always stuck with me. And my whole life has just been, oh, Johnny Peppers is, my friend's a retired SEAL. He just hit me up. He's like, I love these. Hello, I know you all well. Let's make a call happen this week. I'm going to ask a huge favor. I'm friends with, so my boy was in Active Valor. I grew up with AJ James and all the I just love the mindset of a lot of these guys. I follow, what's his name too? The Green Beret dude, blanking on his name, because all he does is fitness stuff online. And
no, the mindset is great. The ability and discipline of a lot of those guys is very impressive.
Yeah. Tim
Kennedy?
Nah, I forgot now I'm blanking on his name. Oh, Pat McNamara.
Yeah. Oh,
Another
he's
fucking
awesome.
stud
He wrote a
motherfucker.
great book on like personal protection. And
Really?
yeah.
I loved it. I see, to me, or like anybody who's overcome amazing obstacles in their life, man, anybody could be a mentor to you, right? And like, it's a type of, guru means teacher, right? So you have Diksha Guru, which is a highly advanced person, but then there's Shiksha Guru, and Shiksha Gurus are found anywhere. Anybody who inspires you and teaches, like the drummer from the Dots, Vinnie Signorelli, and then he was in the Unsane and all these other punk bands. He played in the Swans. He hung out with the fucking dudes from the Buzzcocks. He was my Shiksha Guru. When I worked in the health food store, he was the first one to hand me one of Prabhupada's books and be like, yo, check this out. And I was like, yo, this is fucking deep, bro. And he took me to the temple on 7th Avenue, and they had this ceremony going and this music playing. He goes, that's George Harrison playing the bass on that Indian chant. I'm like, what? And then I was like, I wanted to live it, I was like, I'm always the type of person that's like, I gotta go full in on this. And sadly, that holds true even with the drugs. I had to be, you know, it's not that we lose our personality of who we are, but we have to be very careful where we invest our energy and make sure that it's to better ourselves and better the planet and better humanity. There's so much hate and separation and all this shit going on right now. And I'm just like, yo, like, what the fuck is going on, man? Like, it's really time to like put humanity in check and be like, yo, we should be trying to come together instead of just everybody fucking dividing each other over politics or religion or the food you eat or fucking how you train, or it's just such bullshit. I'm like, and I've always been like, yo, I don't really give a shit about any of that. I'm like, whatever makes you a better person, that's what you need to roll with.
Yeah, I'm so much more stoked on anybody saying, this is what I'm doing and it's working really well for me, than somebody saying, this is what you have to do,
Yeah, because everybody's different. That's what I always did. I took pieces from here and pieces from there, and I made my own. That's what I tell. It's not cut and dry. Everybody's an individual. It's a Chinta Beta Beta Tattva that was simultaneously one and different part and parcel of the Supreme, right? But everybody has a personality. We're individuals. Everybody's different. No one formula is going to work for anybody, right? So I took the training. I take the philosophy of Srila Prabhupada. I take my recovery stuff. I take my diet. I take whatever, and I'm like, yo, this is what worked for me. If any of this helps you, I did my fucking job.
Yeah. No, I feel the same way. And by the way, that comes across in what you put out there. It really does.
Yeah. And the thing is like, I always try to point people to individuals like yourself or other people who have overcome, like Ken Rideout. And I think everybody should follow this guy because he's such a giving person. He's adopted people to his family. And when I met him, I was with Frank Grillo, and all of us used to train at Crunch on Lafayette in New York. And I know you were born in New York because I read.
I still have a place in New York. I love New York.
So all the 5 Points guys used to be in there training in Muay Thai. Terry Sutherland, who is a fucking, he was a head trainer at Mendez Boxing, like legit Navy boxer dude, and turned pro. And everybody used to be in there, and there was a ring up on the second floor. So everybody that hit the weights was downstairs, and all the fighting people were upstairs. And that's how I met Ken. And when I met him, I'm like, this dude's whacked out on pills, but he was still fucking banging the bag for 2 fucking hours. And then I didn't see him for years. I go to the swim start at New York Ironman in 2012. And I'm on the barge ready to jump in the water. And Ken Rideout is fucking there. And I'm like, I fucking had tears in my eyes. I'm like, oh my God, dude, I can't believe you're here. And he qualified for fucking Kona on his first Ironman. And now he's breaking world records. He does the Teddy Atlas podcast too. It's Ken Rideout, him. The guy, he's a fucking stud. And all he ever posts about is positive shit to help people. If I need help trying to cut my times down or whatever, My
That's the
brother's
guy.
just shaking and baking over here. It's like he's just there all the time to help people. And that's, that's the kind of people that I gravitate toward now. All these negative crumb bum motherfuckers, like, you post some negative shit, I'm just gonna block you,
Yeah.
because that's
It's
just what
not
I
it's not
do.
worth it. Yeah, it's
And I'm
not
gonna
worth
block you in real life too. And
it.
like, just keep your distance, man, because there's also a side of me that's gonna click at a certain point, and I'm gonna be like, you don't want that side of me to come out, homie.
Right.
Like, there's gonna be a certain point where, like, the words, it's all right, enough is enough, you know?
Let's put this into action now.
Yeah. Either we put this to bed or put your head to bed. How about
Right.
that?
Right.
Like, but I don't try to go there with that anymore. I just, I try to just be peaceful with everybody and do what the fuck I got to do every day. It's,
John, you're an amazing guy. You're a legend. I love the positivity you're putting out there. And anybody who has a self-improvement message I tip my hat to them, John.
yeah.
Thank you so
I
much.
want to say to you, and I don't know if you saw Iron Mind, where I challenged that guy. He was an addict. He left New York and fucking he did the London Reel
I didn't see it.
show. Yeah, they took it down because he was saying shit during this whole COVID thing that they deplatformed a lot of people, and
Yeah.
like, he was one of them. So it's hard to find anything but clips, but it was all based on positivity. And I challenged him to do a half Ironman. And my thing to you is, it's not a challenge as so much as, like, I would, you're on the bike, like, I would, at some point, man, we should get down and do a fucking race together, and we could raise some money for a good charity, maybe like
I would
homeless
love to do a
children or
ride with
whatever
you.
the fuck,
My experience racing, like I would do the ride portion of a triathlon, but like
Yeah, so we could do a relay.
yeah, we could do something like
one
that.
person swims.
We get a runner and a swimmer.
And you know what? We could do it because they have relay teams, right? So you would have to bike like 112 miles. Right?
I could do that. I've done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we could get somebody to do the swim, and I'll do the 26.2 mile marathon.
Yeah.
Maybe
the thing I won't do is, I know that crit in New York, and
shit's crazy.
I've done some crits before in industrial areas of Los Angeles, and those I'm not doing that. That's for young men.
Those crashes. I went to one of those out at where the fuck was it? At the where's that? It used to be where they fly the police helicopters out there when you come over the Marine Parkway Bridge. What's that? That fucking the airfield out there. You know what it's called?
Yeah, not Edwardsfield or something.
Yeah, it's like
Peterborough.
Huh?
Peterborough?
No, it's in New York. When you come over the Marine Parkway, Bridge to Brooklyn, there's on the right-hand side going into Brooklyn, there's a big like, they used all the police helicopters land over there and all that, but they set that up for a crit, and the fucking crashes, dude.
They're
like,
awful.
Yeah,
they're awful. Yeah,
I'm not
doing that. I'm not doing that.
Listen, I the last time I rode up in Central Park, this was like a few years ago, and I did the night ride at 7:00 in the spring and summer. They would have the pack ride, right? I used to be riding that shit with like all the world I was a messenger when I worked at the same company as
Floyd Benefield.
I worked at the same company as Nelson Vales, who was a bike messenger and won a silver medal in the Olympics track pursuit, right? So like, I put in time with all these messengers and fucking all the dudes that used to race in Central Park and everything. And it was a different mentality. Everybody was cool and like fucking, like, I met George Hinkeby, who raced with fucking what's his name, who won all the fucking shit but was doping. What the fuck is his name? I'm blanking. I'm just watching him.
Oh, Lance Armstrong. Yeah.
Yeah, Lance, right. So George Hinkeby was a kid, and he was friends with the Cuevases in New York who owned a bike shop called on Avenue A, right? And that's how I got to meet him. Was like, so everybody, it used to be this different mentality. Like now, I would go past riding 9W, and I'm like, go like this, and they're like. I'm like, get off the bike, buddy. Like, like
no room for snobbery out here.
Dude, it's so fucking pathetic. But I did the crit ride in Central Park, and like this dude just cut me off and like looked back and goes like this to me. I was like, when it was over, I was like, bro,
what are you doing?
You better watch yourself, bro. Because off that bike, you're in trouble.
Right. You might even be in trouble on the bike.
I do the athletic shit just to keep a positive mindset. That's for me. And like I'm down with all the old school cyclists. My boy Sean Fowler was like a professional fucking cyclist, dude. And when I trained for Ironman, I would try to keep on that motherfucker's wheel doing these rides of 60, 70, 80, 90 miles. And the guy's a beast. But it was always encouraging me. It was always showing me tips, how to position myself, how to fucking everything, how to get more power on my power meter. He always did shit and then we would see people and he'd be like, TDB, which stands for Team Douchebag. That's what we used to name those guys. Like, and some of them would they would go by Sean and look back like, yeah. And then Sean would just fucking hammer on them and just fucking have them puking because nobody I ever rode with could keep up with that guy.
Yeah.
But it's a different mentality. It's just, I do the shit. I try to encourage people. Like when people tell me I can never do an Ironman, I said, why are you creating those self-defeatist statements about yourself? Did you ever try? Did you ever give it a coach? Did you ever? No, well, I didn't. Well, why would you say something like that? Yeah. It's just like people told me I'll never get a book published. I proved them wrong. And even with the writing now, I'm writing a short film about these kids. They had us living in a fucking garage and like just everything that we went through. And I'm like, when somebody tells me I can't do something like you'll never finish an Ironman, you'll never do this, I take it as you'll never get an album out. You're a street urchin. You're gonna end up dead or in prison. That's where you're heading. That's what I had people telling me. And I've fucking proved every one of those motherfuckers wrong. And I'm 62 years old in October and I'm still proving them wrong. Because I show up and like Stephen Pressfield said, who's one of my main mentors for writing, do the work. Yeah. Do the work. Don't give in to the resistance, that's a great book. Do the work and the War of Art are two great books. And I studied writing under Robert McKee. And when I went to his story seminar, the only book he sold was Story, his book, and Stephen Pressfield, The War of Art. Yeah. I was like, if McKee's selling this book, I gotta read it. Yeah. And I love Pressfield, man. He's awesome. Fucking. He's been on Rogan too, and like I gravitate toward positive people, man. If you're gonna be a fucking crumb bum and you're gonna say, or the complainers and the ones who say the world is against me, the world ain't fucking conspiring against you. You're conspiring against yourself. So
listen. It would be great if everything that ever triggered me or set me on emotional edge or made me uncomfortable went away. But then what would my game be? You know what I mean? I would love it if I could snap my fingers and McDonald's would disappear and I'd never have to smell a Big Mac again or see a beautiful advertisement for it. I would love that. But like life isn't easy, Yes. We're fucking fighting for our lives one way or the other every day. And why should it just be easier on us?
Well, you know what? My teacher, Prabhupada, said that we should welcome the tests because they're a way for us to advance. If we were never tested, right? It's just like in the gym, right? When you're working out, it's that plateau effect. Why do you get a trainer? Because the trainer is going to push you beyond that limiting mindset that we have for ourselves. I can't do that. I train people now. That's what I do. And we'll do planks and work out and hit a hit workout, high intensity interval training, and the dude will be like, I'm like, you're developing a defeatist mentality. Block that shit out. Like I trained with this guy who was my first people in the gym. It was this tunnel rat from Vietnam at Gladiators Gym on 6th Street. And it was this guy, Crazy Pete. And he had these Puerto Rican guy, Vietnam tunnel rat, had these thick fucking glasses, right? And he would come by and be like, you gotta block it out, man. When that comes in your mind, you gotta block it out. And that gym was actually featured in Seinfeld. Seinfeld was getting trained by that old guy, and he brought him to Gladiators Gym. And he goes, Jesus, is this a health club or a fitness museum? That was Gladiators. That was my gym. So I learned all that shit from like the best dudes, man. And everybody, I was the only white boy in that whole gym. And you know what my name was? Yo, white boy John. But they loved me because when I first, like the first week I'm training there, the mirror came off the fucking wall and shattered, and a shard of glass shot into the artery in my leg, and fucking blood I'm like, I didn't even feel it. And I'm doing the leg extension machine, and they're like, yo, mira! And fucking blood is going. And they were worried I'm going to sue them. I'm like, I ain't fucking suing you. I went to the fucking emergency room. I never paid the bill. I said, come suck, come see, whatever, let's go. And they fucking loved me after that. But everybody in that gym, there was a lot of ex-cons and street motherfuckers and gang members. And it was this certain mentality in there. And it was like, they were hardcore as fuck.
Yeah.
And Pete would be like, don't get in with the flappers. The flappers, they come in, they flap, 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 flap. And then the boxing dudes were in there. They're like, let's join and more porn, fucking. Yeah. It was that whole fucking beast mentality. We'd have the social time, but it was after the workout was done or while you're doing your reps or whatever the fuck it was. But I learned how to work out properly. Like, that's the first time I saw a kettlebell was in the fucking 80s in that gym. I'm like,
Yeah, and those have had a big resurgence now.
Yeah, the kettlebell shit is next level, man. Doing a fucking what are those the get-ups, the fucking
Turkish
get-up. I'm like, you could get a great workout in with them things, but
just standing up and laying down with the kettlebell.
That's it. Who would have thought, right? I mean, we used to stand up and fall down. Now we're fucking, but to me, it's just, I got Ironman number 15 coming up. I'm finishing another book. I got, I'm in New York City I got a book reading on Wednesday, like a little thing. I'm going to, I go to drug programs and speak to people now. And, I've been going to prisons and everything and speaking to the people before the pandemic. I was doing that a lot. Like, I went to Goshen Annex. I went to, different places, high schools, drug gang, gang high schools. And just to try to tell them, like, look, man, like I was on the original Scared Straight when that shit aired in the 70s, and they took us to Fishkill, they took us to Rawway, and it was like, they were trying to instill in us, like, look, man, what you think is like so badass, you're going to find yourself alone, sitting in a cell and wishing you never made the mistakes that you made. Or you're going to be fucking dead, or you're going to be a lifetime addict. We actually did this documentary with Kip Anderson, who did What the Health and Cowspiracy and these other movies, and it was called 30 to Life. And I was like, I just want to go and take guys who did long periods of time in prison. So we went to LA, and we found like a halfway house where these like dudes who did over 20 years in some of the most hardcore, Chino Max, which is like gladiator school, fucking what do you call it? This one guy was there for the riots in San Quentin and Pelican Bay. And these guys were fucking shot callers and everything, like real heavy fucking dudes. And me and Paul de Gelder the guy who does all the Shark Week stuff. He was like an Australian Navy SEAL, and the bull shark took his arm and leg off. He's always on Shark Week. Me, him, and Kip Anderson wrote out this thing, and we just helped these guys, and we put them through this intense spiritual, physical thing. Like Paul had them jumping out of airplanes and fucking, and these guys had never even seen the ocean, man. Paul took them out swimming, and they were crying. Like imagine that. Like you live in Los Angeles and you've never been to the ocean.
Yeah.
And
crazy.
Rich Roll, we did a 5K, and Rich Roll from he did Finding Ultra, another great example, an athlete and everything. We did a 5K, and we did it down at the beach, and like the whole town came out and were fucking applauding these guys for finishing this run. And we finished as a team. We waited for the last man to come through, and we finished as a fucking team. And I still am friend, and hopefully, the funding kind of dropped out, and because of the pandemic and everything, we had to wait the 2-year follow-up to be like, where are they now? And then the pandemic hit, we lost financing and everything like that. But that thing's in the can, and that's just one of the things I'm passionate about, is going and being like, hey man, like a lot of these dudes were like sitting like this, so all the other dudes were talking, and then they were just like rolling their fucking eyes. But we did a circle, and then when I got up and told my story of where I came from and what I went through, and just everything, the abuse and the fucking homes, the foster homes and the streets and the lockups and the drug addiction and the destroying myself and everything else, it got through to them. And I always tell people, I go and talk to these people, and I get through to them because I know what it's like. I've walked in their shoes. But when I got to that fork in the road, I said, I don't want this life anymore. I got to go this way. I got to make these decisions that's going to take me out of all this bad association. And that's the key to everything. Who are we spending our time with, right? Are we spending our time with people trying to improve themselves, or are we spending our time with people that are destructive, that are using drugs, that are eating bad food, they're lazy, they're not, God bless them, but there has to be a point where we cut all of that off and say, hey man, I got to roll with the PMA. I gotta roll with the PMA crew. I gotta hold on to these motherfuckers, because like they're the ones that are doing it, and I want what they got. I want to be able to fucking kick drugs. I want,
Well, don't you think a lot of this stuff is socially contagious too? So like, I think for me, having a group of friends who are sober is really important. Having a group of people around me that have the similar interests in health and fitness is super important.
It is. There's strength in numbers.
Yeah.
And that works the opposite way too. Like I said, you're either going to have good habits or bad habits, right? And my teacher Prabhupada said, if you're not a thief or a drug user, why would you want to be around those people? Not that we don't, but we give them our association, right? We don't take their association. We're trying to help them out. I'm not going to go to a bar where motherfuckers are drinking and drunk just to try to prove. I'm like, yo, when you're ready, step out of the bar and we'll have a fucking conversation.
Meet me at the juice bar. Yeah.
Over a fucking kale juice, motherfucker. Like,
Yeah. John, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you.
Yeah,
so
man.
much.
I'm glad we got to have it. And I guess you're married to Juliet's sister, right?
Yeah.
And I love Juliet, man. She's like so fucking positive. I think like the positive people need to start coming together and being like, hey, man, we got to fight to change the direction that this world is heading in, and do it by example. And that's what my teacher said too. Example is better than precept. Yeah. You can talk all this shit, but at the end of the day, motherfuckers are looking to what you do and what you say and how you live your life. And be the example. Be the example, right? And I always make myself available to anybody, man. I answer all my fucking messages, emails. I had this one dude, and I'm going to end with this, and this is why it's so important for me to do that. This guy got out of prison, and everything was going rough for him. His family shit with his wife and kids. He was sitting in the garage with a fucking gun in his mouth. And I still get goosebumps telling this story. And he said to me, yo, I was ready to take my life. I didn't talk about it. I was just going to do it. And he said, something told me to message you. And I swear to God, he messaged me on Instagram, and I had happened to be there, like looking at my shit. And I got this message. He's like, yo, I'm in a really bad fucking way right now, thinking of doing something really fucking bad. And I was like, dude, call me right fucking now. And I gave the dude my number, and I talked him down off the ledge. And I was like, now the guy's sober. His family's fucking good, all this shit. And I'm like, we don't know what people are going through. And that's what I tell people when they try to judge an addict. And one of the things I cover is food addiction too, because I was a drug addict, right? But then when I hurt my back and I couldn't exercise, I ballooned up to 210 pounds. My race weight is 170 pounds. That's 40 pounds of fucking stuffing my fucking face, doing all this eating because I felt fucking pathetic for myself. And so if food is an addiction too. Food causes type 2 diabetes. It causes all these other issues, being overweight, right? So that's an addiction too. We have to be there for everybody that needs us, and making fun of people or fucking putting people down. It's not the way to go, man. And
no, it's not productive.
Yeah, we need this like embrace of each other and fucking try to help each other out and be compassionate. When I stopped eating meat, it's because I saw the Rastafarians told me in Jamaica when I went down there in 1980 on my ship. They're like, yeah, man, I Italians vital. You eat this, you live to 100. I tasted it. I'm like, this shit tastes like shit. I was still eating burgers. And then the Bad Brains told me about it, right? So this is 80. And then I saw Frederick Weissman's film called Meat. Frederick Weissman was a documentary filmmaker. He did Titty Cut Follies and these other movies where he didn't do any voiceover narration. He just filmed shit. So he filmed a nut house, and he filmed the whole process of what they do to animals. And I was like, he wasn't vegetarian or vegan or anything. I was like, I can't support that. And that's what I always said. I come from a world of violence. I saw motherfuckers murdered in front of me on the streets of New York. I had violent shit done to me. I acted violently towards other people. I don't want to be part of that violent world anymore, right? And that's the first thing they teach in yoga is two things. Number one is aham brahmasmi, I'm not the material body. Number two, practice ahimsa, nonviolence. It's not that we're not trained for violence, because I am, but I try to live a peaceful life that doesn't harm other people or living entities. And that's why I choose to do, when I went on fucking Joe Rogan, that's one of the first thing he said was, you're vegan. I said, nah, man, I don't call myself vegan. As a matter of fact, I got a chapter in Meat is for Pussies that's called Vegan, the 5-letter curse word. He goes, what? I go, yeah, man, I don't give a fuck about none of that. I never call myself a vegan. But, the thing is, the title came because somebody told me if I don't eat meat that I was a pussy. So I threw the shit back in their motherfucking face. I'm like, all right, but it's being a New Yorker, bro, we have like a fucked up, warped sense of humor too. Like some people don't get my humor, and I get that. And
no, I love
I'm
it.
like, hey man, if I offended
energy.
you, I apologize, whatever. But I'm not gonna change. We don't change our personality. Like God gave us a particular personality, and we gotta roll with it. Otherwise, we just become robots. Everybody has different ways of doing things, and that's why I said, if something in this book is gonna help you, cool, use it. Take a piece of this, take a piece of that. Whatever the fuck you gotta do to heal yourself, that's what we should do.
Yes, sir. John, thank you.
Thanks, man. I couldn't think of a better. This is like church on a Sunday.
This is a great Sunday for me too.